Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Whatcom County Council meeting for November 22nd, 2016. Would you please call the roll? Barbara
Brenner.
Here.
Red Brown.
Here.
Barry Buchanan.
Here.
Todd Donovan.
Here.
Ken Mann.
Here.
Paul Sadoo.
Here.
Carl Weimer.
Here.
Would you please rise and join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have just a couple announcements. If you have your cell phone with you, please either turn it off or place it on vibrate. And if you'll be handing out paperwork to council members, please give one copy to the clerk for our office files. We thank you for doing that. We have 6 sets of minutes to approve tonight. First one is Special Committee of the Whole for June 14th, 2016. Second one is Surface Water Work Session for June 21st, 2016. Next is Special Committee of the Whole for June 21st, 2016. Special Committee of the Whole in the morning meeting for June 28th, 2016. Regular County Council for June 28th, 2016. And regular County Council for July 12th, 2016. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. From earlier today, from the Committee of the Whole, we had a discussion and formulation of recommendations related to the proposed ordinance adopting the 2017 through 2018 Whatcom County budget. That ordinance is scheduled for a public hearing this evening. So we will move into that in just a minute. Second item is discussion with Senior Deputy Prosecutor Karen Frakes regarding pending litigation Hearst et al. Versus Whatcom County Growth Management Hearing Board case number 12-2-0013. We have staff here tonight who is going to give us a little rundown on what's going on with that, and they'll come forward now. Okay, we will. We'll go into our public hearings. So I want to remind audience members, we ask that you do not react in any way to the speakers, such as clapping or booing or hissing or anything that would make people intimidated. We want to make sure that anyone that has a viewpoint on any of the subjects we're going to talk about tonight feels comfortable in doing in their testimony. So audience members who signed up at the back of the room prior to the beginning of our meeting will be called first and are asked to form a line behind the signs on either side of the chambers. If you are unable to sign up before the meeting, you will be given an opportunity to address the council once we've gotten through all the names on the list. Each speaker should state his or her name for the record and will be given 3 minutes to address the council. Council staff will keep track of time limits and will let you know when you have 30 seconds left to wrap up your comments. So we will go ahead and move into the first public hearing. I'm waiting for the sheets.
Mark's here too.
Oh, Mark is here, so let's go back to our item from Committee of the Whole, and that's discussion with Senior Deputy Prosecutor Karen Frakes regarding the pending litigation Hearst et al. Versus Whatcom County.
Would it be called? It's not called pending litigation.
Good evening, Council. Just a few words to talk tonight about the water case. On tonight's agenda, you have an interim ordinance scheduled for introduction regarding determination of legal water availability for the purpose of complying with the Supreme Court decision in Hearst v. Whatcom County. This will be the second step in our response to the court's decision, the first being adoption of the emergency ordinance just 26 days ago. And I'll speak to our next steps in just a moment. But first off, introduction of the proposed ordinance tonight simply gives the public notice that the ordinance will be up for public hearing and decision by the council in 2 weeks on December 6th, but not tonight. This will give folks 2 weeks to review it prior to the public hearing. Second, the proposed ordinance is interim, meaning that it can last for a maximum of 6 months without another public hearing or changes. So that gives us more time to continue to search for the solutions to the many difficult development circumstances the Supreme Court's decision has placed on Whatcom County, especially those questions that we can't answer yet. And this ordinance is only one of the steps that we have yet to take to address those issues. What the proposed ordinance does, it would lift the emergency moratorium on acceptance of permit applications that were dependent upon a permit-exempt well. And it means that the Health Department and the Planning Department may again accept and process building permits and subdivision applications that propose to use a permit-exempt well as a legal potable water source in certain areas and in limited circumstances where in-stream flows will not be impaired. Secondly, it identifies all the legal sources of potable water that are potentially available for development in Whatcom County and the limited circumstances upon which permit-exempt wells specifically can be determined to be legal sources of water per the Supreme Court's decision. First, for permit-exempt wells, the ordinance will require a finding from a hydrogeologist that the well would not impair in any way an adopted minimum in-stream flow in the Nooksack Basin. Most of the county's streams are subject to some kind of surface water closure. And the Department of Ecology presumes that most groundwater in the county is in continuity with those closed streams, so proving impairment through a hydrogeoanalysis is going to be a very difficult thing to do. We understand that. That's the implications of the decision. Second, if impairment of any kind is shown from a proposed well, another option in the ordinance is for a new well proposal to provide a mitigation plan that eliminates that impairment. However, again, we're constrained because due to several related Supreme Court decisions about water use, mitigation is a difficult solution to implement at the moment. Now keep in mind the ordinance does not affect existing residences already using exempt wells, including remodels, and it will still allow existing and new residences and public water associations with approved water rights, as well as rainwater catchment systems in rural areas where public water is not available. So there still are some solutions out there. I want to talk a little bit about our next steps. They are going to take longer than the next 30 days to accomplish because the issues associated with them are increasingly complex and difficult to solve. They include, one, gathering data and information on the range of pending development and water use applications and approvals that were done prior to the approval of the, or prior to the effective date of the court's decision to determine the most fair and equitable vesting policies going forward, including looking at the investment-backed expectations of those folks who have spent a significant amount of effort on securing what was legal water until just a month ago. Second, we're going to look at fully funding and completing the county's groundwater model to better understand the surface water, groundwater hydrology in the county, and so at least the burden of determining impairment to adopted in-stream flows can be borne by the county and not individual applicants in the future. Seeking changes, thirdly, seeking changes to the GMA and water law from the legislature to recognize that the state's groundwater is best managed by the state and not individual counties, and requesting changes to state law to relieve the burden of unworkable judicial water impairment and mitigation standards now in place that don't even give us enough tools to solve the problem, as well as requesting technical, financial assistance from the state to deal with the challenges of providing an adequate public rural water supply. Fourth, continue our ongoing water supply planning that was originally embodied in the Lower Nooksack strategy adopted by the WIRA 1 Joint Board by examining potential water supply and in-stream flow solutions, including looking more deeply at the potential mitigation solutions, including opportunities and obstacles to impairment from both an individual well use and a basin-wide perspective, such as water banks and stream augmentation. and evaluating private versus public mitigation solutions, effectiveness, and costs. And finally, our fifth step will be to we continue to work on achieving GMA compliance through our remand proceedings with the Growth Management Hearings Board. I want to be very clear that Whatcom County did not ask to be in this position, and this interim ordinance is in direct response to the Washington State Supreme Court decision. The Supreme Court decision has forced Whatcom County to take over the obligation of determining legal water availability when reviewing and approving new development permits. The responsibility has long been the Department of Ecology's, as outlined in the state's water code. This court decision has led counties throughout the state to be reactive and to try to find the balance between growth management and water use planning that the court has laid down. At the same time, previous court cases have severely limited the options available to state and local governments to address those problems, including not allowing in-stream flow impairment by even one molecule in the Postema case in 2000, and limiting water bank mitigation options for real-world solutions in the Foster case in 2005. So this is the playing field that we have to work with, the playbook that we have to work with now. There are other examples of counties who've taken action to address these issues, but each county is unique, right? So unlike Whatcom County, Spokane County, for example, has a groundwater model that's already completed and operational, and they use that to determine a 500-foot impairment distance from other wells in their county. Pierce County exempted wells that were reviewed and approved prior to the Supreme Court decision. So time will tell if those options go far enough to comply with the Supreme Court's ruling in those counties. The difference between those counties and us right now is that we are alone in front of the Growth Management Hearings Board trying to achieve compliance on this issue. It's important that we retain as much discretion as possible in trying to solve these issues in Whatcom County rather than having the Hearings Board make those decisions for the county. Any action we take will be reviewed by the Hearings Board for compliance with GMA and the Supreme Court decision, so we have to be careful and methodical about how we go about that process. I just want to close by saying the staff and council have received a number of questions on individual well situations, and we may not have all the answers tonight, but we are reviewing all those correspondence and suggestions and looking for those solutions. We appreciate your patience and understanding. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move back into our public hearings. The first one is an ordinance authorizing the 2017 Whatcom County Unified Fee Schedule. Do we have any staff report at all? We do not. I will open the public hearing. There is no one signed up. Does anyone like to come down and speak to us about the Whatcom County Unified Fee Schedule? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. What's the wishes of the council?
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Brenner?
I'm not going to support it because there's quite a few very significant increases, more than 10%, and I had talked to Tyler Schroeder about this weeks ago and said, I would like to know anything that's been raised more than 10%, I'd like to know why. And I guess you didn't find anything because I didn't get any response. So I just think it's crazy to have some of these be such significant increases.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Barbara Brenner,
No.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ken Mann,
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
Carl Weimer,
Yes.
Okay, that passes 6-1 with Ms. Brenner opposed. The next one is an ordinance authorizing the levy of taxes for conservation futures purpose for 2017. There's no staff report? Okay, we will open the public hearing. Again, we have no one signed up for this hearing. Would anyone like to talk to us about the levy of taxes for conservation futures? Seeing no one, what are the wishes of the council?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Brenner?
Yeah, in respect to the motion that was passed by the council majority to raise the property tax, would that have anything to do with the conservation futures money? Nothing? So the conservation futures money would be at the same level it was at last year, except for new construction and improvements? Or if somebody's assessment went up?
Brad Bennett from Administrative Services Finance. The spirit of the ordinance is exactly as you described. There was a little bit of an idiosyncrasy this time because of the
settlement?
property tax appeal.
The
and
settlement?
That's
Yeah,
the only
that's
difference.
what yeah, okay, that's fine.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Sorry,
Oh.
Mr. Chair, sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Bennett, could you just elaborate a bit more on that last comment?
So there was a significant appeal of property tax, which pulled the new construction off of the rolls for 13, 14, and 15. When the property tax, the valuation in question was settled and resolved, the Department of Revenue said that we actually have to disclose, in order to recapture that new construction on for those years, we have to reflect that on our current ordinance as a tax increase. So that the increase that's reflected in the conservation futures tax ordinance is the new construction for 13, 14, and 15. Because new construction, as you know, is on top of your levy.
So this is, sorry,
Go ahead.
so this is effectively to adjust for the settlement of the BP issue?
Correct. This sets our levy as if the appeal had never occurred, and all the appraisals were settled.
So I think just, yeah, and I think just for the benefit of everybody, that BP had an appraisal done or an assessment done by the county. They appealed that significantly, saying that their property was worth significantly less than that. And the state ultimately said, no, you're wrong, and readjusted it back up considerably. So, okay. So this is just to reflect that. Yeah. Okay.
Ms. Brenner?
That isn't what happened. I think they came away with somewhere in the middle. The county had assessed it quite a bit too high. They assessed it quite a bit too low, and there was something in the middle. That's what the final solution was.
Any other discussion on this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ken Mann.
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
Carl Weimer,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner.
Yes.
That passes 7-0. Our next public hearing is an ordinance authorizing the levy of 2017 property taxes for county road purposes. I'll open the public hearing. We have no one signed up. Would anyone like to speak to us on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and turn it back to council.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion, Ms. Brenner.
Yeah, on the road taxes, does the proposed tax increase proposed by the council majority doesn't have any, it's just on the general taxes? Okay.
Any other discussion? Mr. Brown?
I'm sorry, Mr. Bennett, could you just explain the history to this change as well?
Excuse me?
Sorry, could you just explain the background to this change as well, please?
This was the same issue as the Conservation Futures Fund.
So again, just an adjustment for the...
Adjustment for the new construction for those years in that there was a property tax appeal.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ken Mann,
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
Carl Weimer,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Red Brown.
Yes.
That passes unanimously. Our next public hearing is an ordinance authorizing the levy of taxes for county and state purposes in Whatcom County, Washington for the year 2017. I will open the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak to us? There's no one again on the sign-up sheet. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. What are the wishes of the council?
Mr. Chair, I move approval of version 2.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for version 2. Ms. Brenner?
Brad, does that include any of the tax increase?
Tyler Schroeder, Deputy Executive. Version 2, as council knows, as discussed earlier in committee and moved forward by council. Version 2 amends the version that the county executive submitted. The county executive version included the BP valuation, but version 2 includes language authorizing an increase to the general fund property tax levy of 1% to fund the county's services as discussed by council earlier today.
Okay, further discussion? Seeing none? Oh, Ms. Brenner?
I'm going to keep this short, but I just don't think we should be increasing property taxes right now. And, you know, somehow people seem to think that, oh, if people own a house, they can afford the increase in the tax. But this is not, and I don't think that's correct, but in addition to that, this is going to affect people who are renters too, because I don't know too many landlords who are going to just swallow this themselves and not pass it on to their tenants. So I don't think it's a good idea.
And we're working off of the additional information on the salmon colored sheet. Any other discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ken Mann,
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
Carl Weimer,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner,
No.
Red Brown,
No.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes. That passes 5-2 with Brenner and Brown opposed. Our next public hearing is an ordinance adopting the final budget of Whatcom County for the biennium 2017 through 2018. We have a replacement red page, and we have a substitute version, which we're calling Lilac. Isn't that
Lila?
special? We'll open the public hearing. We have some folks signed up. First is Carly Dethridge, then Brenda Winters, and then Therese, I can't make out the last name. Pardon me?
She wanted to speak of something else.
Carly?
Anybody else? She wants to speak to something else.
All right, good evening, council. My name's Carly Detheridge. I live in Bellingham, and I also work in the Clean Water Program at Resources for Sustainable Communities. Thank you for accepting comment on your final proposed budget for Whatcom County in the 2017-2018 biennium. Originally, I had 3 concerns, but they've been narrowed down to 2 after getting some more information. The first one, though, is a question, and that's whether there's funding built into the budget for 2017 to convene a climate impact advisory committee. So this was noted in the comprehensive plan that was passed back in August in the environment chapter. It was policy 10, or it was 11, but chapter 11 got changed to chapter 10. Chapter 10, the policy is 10D-6, and that's to convene a climate impact advisory committee. And ultimately, I guess I'm just curious if there's funding allocated to convene that stakeholder group to look at updating the 2007 climate plan. So I'm assuming there's probably funding within the operating budget, but that's just one thing I wanted to raise. The second thing is I'm concerned about Councilmember Weimer's proposals that were originally proposed for the budget but were withdrawn, and those were to track wetlands and habitat conservation areas. So the critical areas ordinance, as you know, you'll be updating that in January, and there's some concerns about whether or not there's enough information to determine whether the critical areas regulations will basically meet the requirements of the Growth Management Act. So are they actually working? Do we have anything to back that up? So ultimately, I hope council will consider putting that request back in or keeping that in the back of your mind going forward as you update the CAO. And perhaps you can submit a supplemental budget item in the new year. But the third and final one that I had was originally to request fully funding the groundwater model, but it sounds like that's going to be worked out in the coming year. So just a plug for that. And other than that, I thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you. Was it Brenda that was going to speak later? Brenda Winters? Or was it Therese?
I think she just withdrew it.
Yeah, I didn't get which one it was that went through.
Okay, whatever, neither of them are coming up.
Neither of them are coming up. Okay, Chris Diley.
Hi, my name is Christopher Bruce Diley. And yeah, I submitted a letter to the Bellingham City Council, and it kind of overlaps with this budget, in that the city, the Bellingham City Council, according to their current budget, their taxes were going, almost double the amount has been going for parks and recreation as opposed to affordable housing. And then they've gone, and for the projection of 2017 and 18, they've just had a Greenways Parks and Recreation tax levy was overwhelmingly passed. So they're going to have even more money going for parks and recreation, but there was no levy for affordable housing. And not to say that that would be necessarily an answer when considering Noam Chomsky, which I'll point out in just a bit. But the Seattle, the city of Seattle, they have just passed, in August, they passed a affordable housing tax levy. So it's in the paper today, I think, in the Seattle Times as well, that they're like making it a priority, you know, affordable housing. But here in Bellingham, I don't see any priority being given this whatsoever. Now, since at least February of 2016, the waiting list for housing has been closed. For a homeless individual, they can no longer even get on a waiting list. And that's through the Housing Authority, which in 2008 was a 2 to 3 year wait. Then in 2011, it was a 3 to 5 year wait. Police sweeps of the homeless in tents continue, as one is directed to Nonprofit Opportunity Council, wherein they are told a lottery poll system is now used to choose homeless people at random. That's very convenient. Not in housing homeless, but in obfuscating the issue by there being no accountability in an esoteric and arbitrary system. Who will be chosen? Who has been chosen? Has anyone been chosen? Moreover, Opportunity Council requires a person to sign a release of Social Security information. Why shouldn't proof of income from Social Security or DSHS suffice? Why force a homeless to give out personal information to a private entity unnecessarily? Meanwhile, a homeless person must stay in an overcrowded shelter where all these sicknesses and stress are, exacerbating any physical or psychiatric issues they might already have. And then back to Noam Chomsky, he pointed out that in Understanding Power, Chapter 10, footnote 28, this is a quote from Chomsky. The U.S. tax and transfer system creates a 28.5% reduction in the poverty rate, whereas all other industrialized countries decrease poverty rates by between 60 and 80%, the only exceptions being Britain, Australia, and Canada,
30 seconds, please.
whose tax and transfer programs still reduce poverty rates by approximately 50%. So I think that means that affordable housing tax levy might not necessarily be the answer, but perhaps like a tax levy, a wheel tax would reduce the class resentment. Instead of property owners paying a tax levy, maybe try a wheel tax, you know, to reduce pollution. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to us about the 2017-2018 budget? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and turn it back to council.
Move approval?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Ms. Brenner?
Well, I do agree that more money is being put towards things that people want than what people need. And I also, following on what he said, I do believe that raising property tax, you know, I'll argue with you, anybody, it's more regressive than any other kind of tax, because sales tax isn't on food. Sales tax, you can buy used things and save money. Property tax, you either pay it or pass it on to your renters, or you're not in the house anymore. So it's not, there's no other ways to do it. And I don't think we should be, I've never been a supporter of raising property tax, but I'm especially not at this time. The other thing is, when I don't think any of my budget proposals got passed. I might be wrong, but I don't think any, and I made quite a few. And what I also did, and I think I was the only council member who did, I put together budget amendments that reduce spending in other places to pay for what I wanted to be spent. And I think that's important to do also. So, like I said, I didn't get any of it. We're going to be paying for new positions, for more positions, 2 of which I know we do not need. And it's more for personal reasons than for legitimate reasons, I believe. So I can't support this budget.
Other discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
I do just want to clarify for the record that this is the purple version
The
of the
lilac.
ordinance.
Lilac.
Okay, thank you. Ken Mann,
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
Carl Weimer,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner,
No.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
That passes 6-1 with Councilmember Brenner opposed. Next public hearing is on a resolution adopting the final 2017 budget of the Point Roberts Transportation Benefit District. In this matter, the council will be acting as the Point Roberts Transportation Benefit District governing body. I'll open the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak to us about Point Roberts? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Turn it back to council.
Move approval. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
Carl Weimer,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ken Mann,
Yes.
That passes unanimously. The next item is a public hearing on a resolution adopting the 2017 budget for the Whatcom County Flood Control Zone District and subzones. In this matter, the council will be acting as the Whatcom County Flood Control Zone District Board of Supervisors. I would open the public hearing. No one has signed up. Would anyone like to speak to us about the budget for the Flood Control Zone District? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. And what are the wishes of the council?
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
and I'm sorry, did you say that this was the blue version?
Light blue, yeah.
Thank
No, I
you.
didn't. Thank you.
Carl Weimer,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ken Mann,
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
That passes unanimously. Our next public hearing is resolution adopting the Whatcom County Flood Control Zone District 6-year water resources improvement program for years 2017 through 2022. And again, the council will be acting as a Whatcom County Flood Control Zone District Board of Supervisors. So we would now open the public hearing. No one has signed up. Would anyone like to talk to us about this budget item? Okay, then we'll close the public hearing. What's the wishes of the council?
Move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Brenner?
I always get this one a little mixed up with the next one on the taxes for the flood control district. Now, does this include the PIC program and other things besides flood issues? I know the next one does, but does this? In other words, does this include issues that are water related but are not flood related? Yeah. I just want to get on the record.
Tyler Schroeder, Deputy Executive. So this is the 6-year Water Resource Improvement Program. It's capital only. The other two
Okay.
items, the budget and the levy, would be where the other
Okay.
discussions are.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ken Mann,
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
Carl Weimer,
Yes.
That passes unanimously. Our last public hearing is on a resolution authorizing the levy of taxes for the Whatcom County Flood Control Zone District for 2017. And the council, again, will be acting as the Whatcom County Flood Control Zone District Board of Supervisors. We have a number of people that have signed up. Steve Kulse, John Templeton. Okay. Greg Christensen. Okay, that's okay. Todd Beld. Bill Henshaw. John Rockwood. Samuel Winters. Roger Sefzik. Ron Reimer. And Cal Leenstra. Okay, that was a quick one. So we'll close. Would anyone like to speak to us about the levy of taxes for the Whatcom County Flood Control Zone District? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and put it back into council's hands.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Ms. Brenner.
Yeah, I'm not going to support this, no surprise here. This has always bothered me that we use a title of flood control zone taxes to do other kinds of programs that have nothing to do with flooding. And, you know, my memory is, and this was a long time ago, when this first happened, it was put on the ballot maybe as an advisory vote, I can't remember for sure. And people supported it because it was about flooding issues. But then it was changed, and actually it was called a fee. And it didn't seem like that was legal to call it a fee because it was a tax. So finally, after a few years, it was changed to a tax. But it was also broadened to do all kinds of things that when people initially voted for it, they had no understanding that it would be used for that. I sure didn't. And I don't think it's fair to do it that way, and I think that this should go back on the ballot rather than keep doing it this way and call it something different. But I don't think it's right, and it wasn't fair since the beginning. So I'm not supporting this use of flood money.
Mr. Brown.
Mr. Bennett, the increase here, is that also related to the BP settlement?
Brad Bennett from AS Finance. Yes, it's the same issue. It's the new construction for 13, 14, 15.
Yep, thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan.
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ken Mann,
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
Carl Weimer,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner,
No.
That passes 6-1 with Councilmember Brenner opposed. Now we'll move into our open session. During open session, members of the public will have up to 3 minutes to address the council on any issue relevant to county business. Before you make your comment, please state your name and your topic of interest for the record. And if your last name is something other than Smith or Jones, please spell it for the clerk. And make sure to speak directly into the microphone so we can hear you. And again, the same 3-minute time limit is, you'll be given a warning at 30 seconds that you have 30 seconds left, and then after 3 minutes, you'll be notified it's time. So we will go ahead and come on down for open session.
Hi, yeah, Christopher Bruce Darley again. What I didn't point out is really important too, is that the regulation of the skyrocketing rental rates would be helpful and reduce the need for affordable housing tax levies. And that, I think, I'm kind of speaking over my head here because I'm just a homeless person. I don't have much of an education. But I think that kind of goes against laissez-faire and physiocratic theory, you know, in the sense that, you know, those are principles that would naturally, in a free market free enterprise system would take care of the problem. But the problem isn't being taken care of through laissez-faire and physiocratic theory. It needs intervention, and it needs, I believe, regulation of the skyrocketing rental rates. And I'm somebody like just an ignorant homeless person. I'm the only one coming up with and speaking about this and even posing the idea and positing the idea of there being regulation, which to me is like really strange. I'm like, where are all the people on this issue? Why isn't anybody speaking out on this issue and trying to address it? And why is it just being completely neglected? And as far as, I just met a man that his rental rates just went up. He's getting Social Security money, and he's in a place near the university. And he said he's already unhappy because of all the drinking and partying that goes on at night. He can't sleep at night because he's right in the university area where all the activity is. And I said they went and raised his rent. He's only getting like $940 from Social Security, and he's up to $800 for rent now. They just bumped it, and he said next year they might go up to $900. So that gives him $40 to live on. And it's like, well, who's stopping this? And he says, I'd like to find somewhere else to live. When I'm like, well, you're probably not going to find anywhere else. That's about the lowest you can get here. And so it's like, I'm looking at him, and he's like really depressed about it. And I'm depressed living in my van and being chased from place to place because nobody wants me living in my vehicle, in their neighborhood. And so, yeah, I just wish people that have more knowledge than I do, more understanding of the larger picture, would address this issue and come up with a solution. Because I don't know what the solution is. I'm just trying to, just through happenstance, I'm trying to come up with ideas. But at least I'm trying to address the issue and come up here and speak. And I'm probably going to stop because I'm having like neuropsychiatric stuff. I might have a blood flow to my brain. I'm having problems cognitive. So I don't want to keep coming here. I really made it to have it, but I really do appreciate having the opportunity to speak. So thank you.
Thanks.
My name is John Templeton. I'm from Bellingham. It's regarding the water situation, the moratorium, and I know that you're addressing that. I'd like to speak, starting in 2001, I brought a 50-acre parcel to the Bellingham Council and to the Whatcom County Planning Department, and it was endorsed by both the planning directors as well as the county executive and the mayor as being a good project. The 50 acres adjoins the city limits next to Lake Padden Park on the south end. For 15 years, at the time I brought it, they said, John, it's a great project, and it looks to me like, this should fly through. There's only one thing. There's a new law that just came into effect called the Growth Management Act, and you're going to have to go through that. Well, for 15 years, I've been going through that. I can no longer afford to hang on to the property to develop it the way it should be for the city of Bellingham. And the Growth Management Act, although well-meaning, has many unintended consequences. And some of that is that obstructionists, well-placed, can find themselves in a position to stymie growth. And currently, I have 9, those acres are now in 10 5-acre parcels that I was bringing to the market in January. And now with the new moratorium, that's not even marketable as 5-acre parcels after this period of time. And again, while it may have to do with water, it appears from my perspective that it's another position that people can put themselves in to stymie growth. And I would just hope that anything that you guys do, you understand that this county needs growth. And so thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Pope. The proposed ordinance for the water does not address when adequate water supply has been proven in history and when there is an existing well or shared well agreement. Late last summer, I purchased a vacant 5-acre parcel in an existing subdivision with a plan of building my home. It was a long process as we had to go through all the different processes required by the county. Wetland studies have been completed. The property has an approved site plan. It also has a fully installed septic system. The property has a shared well agreement with one neighbor and a water line with a freeze-proof stand pipe near the proposed house site that has been used for agricultural watering. Power has been brought into the building site based on the proven adequacy of available water supply. The site is building permit ready, and I have a building plan selected. The well was drilled in 1989 and has a well log showing a depth of 127 feet deep and 10-gallon per minute Baylor test quantity. A water availability notification signed and dated in 2008 was entered when the neighbor built a house sharing the well. RCW 19.27.097 states each applicant for a building permit must show evidence of adequate water supply, and includes text that states, in addition to recorded water rights, that another form sufficient to verify the existence of adequate water supply is allowed. RCW 19.27.097 requires local government to review proposed new private wells. The court decision in file number 91478-3 states that the Supreme Court's decision does not affect wells that are currently in use by existing homes. Currently, the building department will not grant a building permit, even though the property has adequate water supply proven in history. In this situation, the county has used a broad brush to prevent me, a landowner who has proof of water availability on an established system, from obtaining a building permit after spending a significant amount of money to be able to do this, preparing for building my home. Since the well at 127 feet is certainly not surface water,
30 seconds, please.
any water used by my home will actually become surface water and will eventually make its way to the river, increasing the potential flow rate for the river. I ask that you address the situation as quickly as possible, as it should be, by no stretch of the imagination, be included in the current building memorandum. Thank you.
Thank you. I would please ask that you would not react to the speakers. We've had this discussion at the beginning of the meeting. It's just polite. So please follow that. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, my question is one of clarification. In April 2000...
State your name, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Steve Cass, K-A-S-S. April 2015, I purchased a lot in Carlson View Estates, Cluster Short Plat 1. The property is on 5866 Ronnie Hill. At the time of the purchase, the use of a well in the adjoining lot was included. We both shared owners now of the well. I had to pay the expenses because that well was dug in about 2006, and his house was built at that time, and he's been using it since then. Now, I'm trying to get a building permit. I went to the county today, and they said, we don't know if your situation is exempt. I said, who would know? And they said, go to the council meeting tonight, and maybe they can tell you. So that's my question. Is the moratorium affects my situation or not?
We don't usually interact with
I think it does.
Mr. Loud.
Sir, if we can get your name and your number, we'll take a look at it on an individual basis for you of whether or not this has an effect on your particular piece of property. And that goes for everybody in the audience. If you have specific questions, Health Department's going to be looking at this and Planning and Development Services. You can leave it with the court clerk here, and we'll give you a call in the next few days.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello, Council. My name is William Lafreniere. I go by Bill. I placed a request for reconsideration of jail design in your mail slots. I'll read it for the benefit of the audience. taking into account that the voters of Whatcom County have previously rejected a proposal to provide the funding for the present version of the new jail, I would like to propose that the County Council pass a vote to allow consideration of alternative design proposals. There is a good chance that alternative jail designs might meet the expectations of what participating Whatcom County law enforcement agencies would expect to have in the design of the new jail. There also exists the chance that the designs might be able to draw from past mistakes and design something that meets the utilitarian purpose of the jail without some of the artistic, political, and personal attributes that the previous designs have incorporated. That would likely translate into a new design that would be reasonably priced, expandable, and easily adapted to new energy and environmental technologies. That said, I would like for the County Council to consider a change to the cell block design that would utilize decertified cargo shipping containers. It is my belief that such containers are inexpensive and readily available, that they can provide high security capability, that they can be easily modified to reasonable expectations of desired usage, that they can be modified to provide safety for inhabitants, sanitation, sound-resistant lockup, chain-link interior walls and doors at minimal cost. These containers could be manufactured off-site and trucked to jail location. These containers could be self-contained units and as such be exempt from many electrical and mechanical code requirements. Automated locks could work off 12-volt battery power and be activated by locking cards, RF signals, or RF chips. Guards could be provided raised walkways out of their reach from inmates where they could monitor problems and administer corrective measures such as water jets or tear gas. These containers are not proposed to contain the equipment for heating or cooling, but would be used inside of a climate-controlled warehouse, and in parentheses, almost any warehouse. Warehouses would not need intensive plumbing modifications. Container cells would require cold water and a central sewage collection sump. Drinking water provided by water jug dispensers. Each cell would have a 1-inch polyethylene.
30 seconds, please.
I can't cover all this today, but
I read your letter.
In addition to this, I would like to add that Whatcom County has a tremendous person who is already on their salary. The county executive has experience with roofing systems and would be a great general contractor to use for building this jail. Instead of hiring a Seattle construction firm and he could bring in labor that would bring in labor from outside the area, he could hire local people, pay them prevailing wage, and forego the union pension funds that are normally associated with large construction projects.
Time.
We could potentially save 60 to 75% on the cost of the jail if we do this. Here's a couple of sample things. Some heavy commercial chain link fencing that would be used for partition, and padding that would be used on the walls to protect from head injuries. This could also reduce liability from having people in a jail. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll like to hear from you folks if you want to contact me.
I sent that information to the sheriff. He's sitting right there.
Good evening, Mary Kay Robinson, the president of the Whatcom County Association of Realtors this year. The situation we have with the Hearst ruling has put Whatcom County and the majority of our counties in our state in a tough spot. I do appreciate the struggles that you and the staff have had in trying to deal with this. I've read through the proposed ordinance and see that a great deal of work has been done with that. Perhaps just another consideration and some focused action. I think there's ways we can move forward. First of all, using a licensed hydrogeologist to answer questions of how a well affects in-stream flows is daunting. There are only a few hydrogeologists in the entire state. Plus, the geology of our county is so diverse that mapping out each area could take a long time and be very expensive. For the average homeowner, of course, this challenge just isn't feasible. One option is, of course, to connect to an existing water system, but even then, to connect to an existing water system up to a half a mile away can get very spendy very quickly. Secondly, we're talking about private well usage of less than 1% of the total estimated water supply here. The ordinance as written presumes hydrologic connectivity. What if the ordinance was written that private wells were not presumed to have hydrologic connectivity, maybe looking at a well depth, looking at aquifers versus groundwater. If someone or an organization wishes to challenge that, then they can spend the funds necessary to prove that connectivity, to prove that one molecule of water connects to the in-stream flows. We all know that to do that, to require that the challenger prove the positive, not the homeowner prove the negative. Flip it the other way. We all know the science about aquifers and groundwater and how wells actually enhance groundwater supply, so I won't repeat that argument. This approach, proving the positive, could address all those issues. Lastly, I ask you to publicly support Senator Erickson's bill that will clarify the GMA water rules so that we can go back to the state scientists to guide us in these environmental matters. We need people who are trained in this complicated topic to make good decisions for our citizens, not Supreme Court judges who are interpreting the law as written. The county and the city share a lobbyist in Olympia. Ask that person to help us with those matters. It's not fair to put the costly burden of a legal interpretation on the backs of individual homeowners and taxpayers to solve this issue of state water shares and water rights. You have the prime opportunity now to show courage and leadership in our community to this matter. Admittedly, it is not an easy task, but we have the resources to do that. My only
30
question
seconds,
is,
please.
do you have the will to make it so? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Laura Sanderson. While it appears we're moving toward a small solution with the water issue, I've taken the opportunity over the last just few days to gather over 414 signatures on a petition that I will leave here. We have copies of that. The petition specifically asks that you would give us a chance to have some legislation to deal with this issue. It's a legislative issue and it can be fixed that way, but we would ask that you stop acting like this is an emergency and the world is going to end, and give us a chance to have our legislators submit something. Sometimes it's difficult to say something without sounding disrespectful, and by all means, I mean no disrespect. However, it's one of those times that someone has to say something. You are our elected officials. I would like you to do your job. Do the hard job of getting people to give you information. Don't put it on the public here to tell you what works and what doesn't work. When you have one legal person interpret what the Supreme Court ruling meant, that's not fair. If something's wrong in your body, very few of us, if we have a serious issue, are going to take one doctor's opinion. Are we not going to ask for a second opinion? I would ask that you have more than one legal person interpret what the Supreme Court ruled down. Is there a timeline on it? Is this an emergency? I don't think so. I haven't found that verbiage, and I have read this stuff. I don't see anywhere where it says that this is an emergency. On your website, the first two descriptions of your job are: adopt plans for the present and future development of the county. Keyword there being development. Number 2 is conduct public hearings on matters of public concern. I don't know that there's been a public hearing set on this yet. Did I miss one?
This is
2 weeks.
This is it, and another 2 weeks. Am I wrong in understanding, or I know you don't like interaction, but it seems to me that you guys have a closed-door meeting that makes decisions, and then we get to come and say something after you've kind of decided? Am I missing a part there, I hope?
30 seconds, please.
No? That's it. Okay. Well, I respectfully submit the petitions. They're still going around. There will be more on December 6th. And ask again if you would please do the work of finding hydrogeologists and legal representation that can interpret the order from the Supreme Court.
Thank you.
My name is John Rockwood, and I sell real estate, and I have for the last 16 years. I'm here to read a letter from Olga and Gennady Skachkov, who I have a listing helping them to sell a 15-acre parcel. And right now, it's very concerning to them that it may not be worth anything if this doesn't get taken care of. So I'm just here to read their letter addressed to you guys, and I'll give you a copy. We have owned our property located at 3196 Slater Road in Ferndale since May of 2003. We have paid thousands of dollars in taxes and considered this an investment payment to go towards our retirement. We have recently put this property on the market with our realtor, me, for $169,900. My husband has a plumbing contracting business and is getting close to not being able to work anymore because of a bad shoulder. Working is getting harder and harder for him. We are counting on using the money from the sale of our property to help him retire. Because of your emergency moratorium, our property will be worth only pennies on the dollar. We don't understand how this can happen to us. We have worked so hard in this country after leaving a socialist country, knowing nothing like this could ever happen to us here. We are so confused how basically overnight everything we have worked so hard for can all be taken away from us. We already have a well and cannot understand how taking water from way down underground and bringing it up to go through a septic system could ever have any impact negatively to any streams that would be miles away. My simple common sense says that it would be water that is introduced to the surface that would have never seen the light of day. Please lift the moratorium so that our life savings will not be taken away from us. I have at least 2 other clients that I didn't get letters from but have similar concerns. One guy is 69 years old. He's spent all kinds of money getting his wetlands delineation. He's separated a 20-acre piece into 4 5-acre pieces, and he was just about ready to put it on the market. He's in the UK right now. We've been communicating, and he just cannot understand how this is his last hurrah. He was hoping to get this money, get these all listed and sold in the next coming months. So, we're talking $150,000, $140,000 a lot times 4, and now I have another friend who has
30 seconds, please.
3 parcels that he's already invested in the septic systems and the wells, and he's put permits in, and he's hoping to also get those on the market. And I mean, these people work so hard. It's beyond me how this could happen, and how you guys could think for a minute that digging down 120 feet, taking water, bringing it up, putting it through a septic system for drinking, bathing, and using facilities somehow negatively impacts this environment.
Time.
I love this environment, and I'm a fisherman, and I would never even consider doing anything that would jeopardize that, but this is ridiculous.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Lyle Sorensen. I just wanted to address you guys tonight and discuss this. And as we're hearing, actions have consequences. And the decisions, I don't envy you guys at all or the county staff. You're in a very difficult position imposed on you by the judicial branch of Washington State. But please, don't forget the human factor. One of the things that I'd like to ask, during this time when people's property basically has no value, either for use or for sale, is the county willing to grant them a cessation of tax during that time? Because frankly, they're paying tax and they can't sell it, they can't use it. It has significantly reduced value at that point. So, keep in mind that, and I see it with county staff sometimes. I know people do the best, but sometimes when you go to the counter at planning, the first person who talks to you gives you a completely different answer than the third person. It's important to realize that decisions that you make, decisions and judgments that county staff makes, impacts people's lives, their well-being, their futures, their hopes, their dreams. So, let's not just become a judicial legislative body that just says, hey, we have to do this. You represent the citizens of Whatcom County, not the state Supreme Court, or not a special interest group. You represent the individual citizens who you see here tonight who have impacts on their lives by decisions that we make or actions that we take or don't take. So please, I just encourage you. I deal with this on a daily basis as well with clients and other people, and it really has a big impact on their lives. I think that we need to keep in mind that conservation is the wise use of resources, not the total preservation of everything. So, bear that in mind. Don't forget the human element, and please remember who you represent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alan Meeks. I'm here about the same issue, the water issue. So I've, basically got another anecdotal story for you all, and I'm sure you've, obviously other community members here have done a lot more research on this issue. It's new to me as I went to apply for my building permit a few weeks ago. So I got to find out about this sort of last minute. So I'm just going to read my letter to you guys because I sent it to you, and I only got one response. I'm not sure if the other 6 had got it, but I wanted you all to hear it. My wife and I have been saving and sacrificing our entire adult lives to build our country dream home. We made a purchase of 5 acres in Whatcom County earlier this year. As first-time land buyers, home builders, we shopped for over 2 years for the perfect piece of land for us to build. We did endless hours of due diligence on so many different properties before buying our plot. We researched with county permitting departments in regards to getting building permits. We went to the local water association, which is Deer Creek Water Association, where I'm at. They gave us a waiver and for their service for us to drill a well because we were over $170,000 away from getting pipe for them. So the land already has a 4-bedroom septic on it. We've already got power. We've been assured by our contractors, the Water Association, various county permitting departments, real estate agents, everyone involved, all the professionals involved in this. My wife and I are very busy professionals. This is not what we do for a living. So we've trusted all the professionals involved in this, including the county permitting departments. And everybody told us no problem. So, we go through design phase. We get to the point of needing to get our building permit a couple of weeks ago, and my contractor comes to me and says, hey, the county just made this decision, and basically you can't get your building permit. So I start doing some research on this, and I'm told this new ordinance will basically extend the existing moratorium, creating a 6-month ban on approving building permits for properties that depend on new private well, unless the property owner can prove the well has no negative impacts on in-stream flow or senior water rights, which from what I understand is virtually impossible and costs somewhere between $100,000 and $300,000 for my land. The differences between the current moratorium and this new ordinance, we don't know. That's what I'd like to know. The whole thing for us is, in short, we're left with basically land that we cannot sell for half of what we've paid for it. We can't get a building permit, even though I've been told every step of the way by every professional and every county official involved that this wouldn't be a problem. I'm, required with my financial institution to convert this land loan, which is a very high interest rate land loan, into a construction loan within a certain period of time.
30
and now I'm
seconds,
not going to be
please.
able to do that because of this. So it's putting, my family of 4 who's worked very, very hard our entire adult lives to get to this point in a very difficult situation where basically all of our dreams, again, disappeared overnight. We're busy. We're working all the time, saving our money, doing everything right, paying taxes, doing what we're supposed to do. And we end up in this situation. It's extremely frustrating to be on the 1 yard line of your dream and be denied that because of something like this. So I've looked into FutureWise and the group that sort of, has donated money to some of you people. And I don't really see, I don't see in there any real good ecological reason to go after private well owners. It seems a little unfair. It doesn't seem, I just was reading on their website, I know them over time, but specifically on their website, they offered many solutions to this problem, and none of it involves a moratorium. So I'm, curious as to why you guys chose that route, and what's the motivation behind that? Because it's not to help out the private taxpayers of your county, obviously.
Good evening, Ken Gustafson, Whatcom County. I want to address the current well moratorium and proposed ordinance as it pertains to my family personally and others I run into as a realtor. 7.5 years ago, my wife and I purchased property west of Ferndale that we had tried to buy for 20 years. Dream property, top of the hill, view of Mount Baker and the islands. It was a 30-acre parcel we wanted to short plot to provide opportunity for our 3 kids. 3.5 years ago, the short plot was complete, approved, and recorded. We used land use consultant Jamie White, who made it happen, and for the most part, we had a great experience with the county staff. What we went through getting to that point was huge. Property so raw there wasn't even a driveway cut, wetland delineation, then mitigation, then buffers, 5-acre parcels not allowed, cluster short plot only, agricultural protection overlay and their APO buffers, archaeological review, that's a $1,500 boilerplate report saying no bones were found. Army Corps of Engineers, road construction to short plot standards, underground utilities, power, 2 transformers, phone line, septic design and permitting for each lot, wells for each lot, over 10 grand. All in all, over $100,000 spent on that infrastructure alone, not counting the cost of the land. We have now built our dream home on the reserve tract. The other 3 lots are waiting on kids and their time frame to build. I followed the rules. With the short plot complete, I always assumed I was ready to help the kids build their home in the future when the time was right. After the great court decision and the moratorium, now I'm not so sure. In reading over the proposed ordinance, it's not clear to me. Is my approved and recorded short plot with wells installed vested? Is there now a time limit I have to complete construction on my kids' lots? Am I out of luck altogether? Oh, and my wells are 300 feet deep. I'm drawing off the aquifer below, adding to the surface water which runs off my pasture,
30
into
seconds,
the ditch,
please.
and into the streams. So I'm putting it back. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. I'm Jason Reimer. I live in the county. First of all, I don't want you to mistake the earlier silence from the crowd during your public hearing for approval for your budgets and the other nonsense that you're doing to raise taxes. You guys are really, truly pathetic for the most part. Pathetic for the most part. You're an embarrassment to the rest of the free citizens of this county, barring maybe Barbara and Rudd, maybe. You, Mr. Chairman. I'm embarrassed to say you're fellow citizens in my county. Just be clear. And I wanted to congratulate you on your years of malfeasance in helping to bring this Hearst decision to come to pass. Further, I do not want you funding resources or Futurelizer anymore with our tax dollars for political purposes. It's illegal. While you may work the gray area because you have no conscience, the man with the most conscience who you don't care about is the homeless fella here, who has the respect of most of this crowd, unlike you. We could get this straightened out in a real hurry if there was law and order. Now, as far as the Supreme Court goes, they issue opinions, not law, and we all know that. So your fake emergency is just that, and it's unacceptable. If I could quit paying my taxes, I wouldn't send you another dime for a long time. Remember, I'm embarrassed by you. Thank you.
Bill Henshaw, Bellingham, Washington. For nearly 100 years, the 5,000 gallon exemption has worked just very well for the state of Washington. Now, all of a sudden, we've got a political decision, and it is political, that says that we've got to do something else. And we've got this making of this emergency ordinance. That ordinance, those 3 alternatives you have for homeowners to get around it are costly, and it will not fly. That is just a given. A half mile of water pipe or a catchment system, that's a $30,000 bill. The solution is real simple. Wells and septic tanks do not create a problem in terms of water quantity or quality. They are actually helpful. Clearing a Douglas fir tree off the property would increase water 300 and so gallons per day. The time is now for the council to get to work and do what they need to do and come up with a solution that does not impact the private citizen the way this ordinance is doing. You need to get to work. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Jerry Peterson, Whatcom County. And as you know, I'm also your resident well driller. Likes to get up here and talk a lot, so I'll be short and sweet. I only have 3 minutes. A lot of folks, there's a tough crowd out here, and you've got a tough job to do. So going to page 8 on tonight's agenda, on item 5, first option A, the study prepared by a qualified hydrogeologist licensed in the state of Washington demonstrating proposed groundwater withdrawal would not impair a senior water right and in accordance with current statutes and case law. Such documentation must be verified by the county either through consultation with the Department of Ecology or a qualified technical review team appointed by the county. The county may require a third-party review by an independent qualified hydrogeologist if the county determines additional technical expertise is needed. The cost of the third-party review shall be the permit applicant's responsibility. As you know, and people have quoted many figures, this is a very expensive process, not to be incurred just once, but potentially twice. And I can't think of a single hydrogeologist in the state in their right mind that would sign off to say that that one molecule did not impact. It's asinine. They'd be hanging their own necks. So we go to option B, a mitigation plan prepared by a qualified hydrogeologist. Evidence of the proposed withdrawal with the mitigation in place will not impair senior water right. And also, number 2, a monitoring and reporting plan, including a quality assurance and quality control plan. I think we need greater clarification on what kind of monitoring that is and what that will look like, as well as what that will cost. And number 3, financial assurance to ensure mitigation measures for the duration of the water use and prohibit water provided for the purpose of mitigation from appropriation for any other purpose. What does financial assurance mean? The only thing I can come up with is a bond, a escrow account, again, more additional costs. And I have to say, if this is what the planning department or the staff are coming up with, we can do much better than this. I'm trying to keep my filter on. We'll see how well I do here. Just keep going. Time hasn't ticked yet. So I refer back to Jack Louse. I really appreciate him going down to Olympia and him stating that counties throughout the state do not have the resources or the expertise on this subject and will struggle to find the balance between two conflicting laws. I couldn't have said it better. And that understanding and dealing with the potential economic, fiscal, and cultural impacts of significantly reduced future growth in rural areas statewide. And he goes on. This has a direct and urgent personal impact on those who in good faith bought property. In many cases, were on the verge of obtaining their paperwork to move forward with building a home. Now, for the foreseeable future, they cannot, and there is no timeline for when it might be possible to do so. Wow, that was fast. I just want to close in a quote from Chief Justice Madsen, who in the 74-page Hearst ruling said, "I write separately to emphasize it is the burden of the state and the local governments independently and in cooperation to determine water availability in the first instance. This is not a burden to be shifted onto individual permit applicants." Thank you for your time.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Could I just, excuse me, Mr. Peterson? Yeah, would you just leave your name and phone number? Thank you.
Good evening, County Council. My name is Jeremiah Ramsey. I'm a realtor with Keller Williams Realty. I have 3 points to make this evening. First, I've spoken with 3 of you on the phone and met with 1 of you in person. And I'd like to agree with Laura Sanderson concerning the fact that we've hired 7 individual, intelligent individuals to represent us here in the county, and I'd like to ask you to use to your fullest potential all the experience that you have. You're not up on in these seats for no reason. You have many years of experience, and I'd like to ask you to work hard to represent the people of Whatcom County. Secondly, I heard a rumor that one of the county council members believes that only 50 to 100 people in this county are going to be affected by this ruling, and I'd like to state that firstly, more than that are going to be affected directly, but indirectly, every single individual in Whatcom County, every tax-paying individual is going to be affected by this, by the moratorium as well as by the Supreme Court decision through taxes. Since the assessed value of properties is going to plummet, as many individuals have already shared here, either Whatcom County will lose money as a result of the decrease in taxes, tax revenue, or taxes are going to be increased, most likely property taxes, and that's going to affect every homeowner and landowner in the county. Thirdly, I'd like to pose a philosophical question to all of you, and I've already asked one of you this question. I'd like to ask all of you. You have duties to the state, to Washington State. You also have duties to the people of Whatcom County. Where is the tipping point? At some point, the duties to the state and the duties to the people don't comply. I want to ask you, where is the tipping point where you will side with the people that you represent? Thank you.
Ron Reimer, 6595 Northwest Road. And I just was looking around the room, and I don't see any of the faces of the lawsuit. Is anybody out here that actually brought this lawsuit? I don't think so. But I do see the people who were behind the scenes helping write it. And that's what's so fun here, is I'm not under the illusion that a pretty good section of you were not really culpable in writing this law and making sure it was engineered to strike at just the right point in the Growth Management Act to bring forth a ruling like this. You sit there looking stunned as though you're shocked by this ruling. Inwardly, everybody's cry here with rural independent citizens that are crying out and talking about the amount of money and time investment that's been laid out here, that's all stuffed up right now. Well, you know what? I don't think you're sitting here. This has really got to be a really irritating meeting for you. Although when you walk out, you're going to be high-fiving and fist-bumping when you go out, because this has been your intended consequence since the Growth Management Act came into being. There's hardly an area that this type of lawsuit has not been engineered to achieve the exact opposite results of the growth management intended goals. Why don't we take a lesson from Florida citizens? Because we are not looking at a group of people that care at all, other than the fact that they're rejoicing in this problem that they're sitting there looking so benevolent about and so worried about you. They are not. Now, there are a few here that remember, because they do care. However, the other ones care just because they've reached what they've wanted. And I pray for you guys to have wisdom. I pray for the council. I pray for my leadership. But a few years ago, my prayers have changed. It's come to a point now where I just pray for exposure. I want you guys exposed. I want people to see you for who you are. What you're doing is just straight up a war on the middle class. You are going to end up with a Whatcom County that doesn't resemble anything that was sold to us about the Growth Management Act. You are going to have rich, and you are going to have people that serve the rich coffee and mow their lawns. That's where we're headed. This homeless guy looking for, or this homeless talk, You could give a rat's about those
30
people.
seconds, please.
They can't serve you burritos. They're not going to serve you coffee. You just trot them out whenever you need them for the old affordable housing thing. I love how you can talk out of both sides of your mouth. I don't know how you do it. But the citizens are getting pretty close. So far, we've had this real progressive Whatcom County and Washington State. The exposure's coming. I hope you get adjoining jail cells.
My name's Danny Brocker. I'm from Whatcom County. This decision is affecting people's life, liberty, property, and pursuit of happiness in a negative way. I'd like to applaud all the people before me that I know we can't clap or whatever, but I'd like to applaud them anyway. You want to raise property tax soon after a moratorium on our properties, which affects with the wells, which immediately lowers property values. I don't see a emergency property tax lowering going on. All I see is you guys all saying, yes, except Barbara, of course, raise taxes, raise taxes, raise taxes. The homeless gentleman talks about, yeah, there is a homeless problem. Well, when we can't have a mother-in-law suite because we can't have a well on our property, we can't, let them park their trailer there, maybe help people, give them a hand up. Everything's a wetland. Everything's a negative impact on the environment, when in reality, people own their land out in the county. We all want to help people, okay? We have drug problems. We have drug epidemics. People want to help people, and we can't even do that because everything has red tape. Everything anybody wants to do, there's red tape on it. If I wanted to say, hey, you can come park your van on my 5 acres. Oh, then I got the county out there saying, oh, well, he's parked near a stream, or he's parked on a wetland, or he tore up the dirt and now there's salmon dying, or, It's one thing after another. And I mean, these guys spend 15 years on a piece of property and they just lost everything because it's an emergency. This guy wants to put his family near him on his property, and he can't do that. He's aging. You know how government goes. It's slow. I mean, I know tons of people who've moved away and they're moving out of this county because of this type of stuff, and I'm one of them. I don't want to move away from my family. I coach high school wrestling. I don't want to leave all those kids. It's sad, but hopefully, we can make a difference, and thank you for your time.
Good evening, council. My name's Todd Beld. I own a piece of land that we've been in the process of short platting, actually 2 short plats. 10 years ago, my wife and I bought this land from our neighbor. We bought it because we thought it'd be a good investment. It was zoned R5, so we wanted to use it the way it was zoned. We thought it'd be a good long-term investment. 3 years after we initially purchased it, we came to a county council meeting because they were going to put a moratorium on splitting up land. It didn't pass, thank goodness. But 7 years later, we're back here trying to defend our right to use that land like we set out to. Kind of lost my place here. At that time, we decided we better get busy on on getting it short platted before we wouldn't have a chance to do it. I'm speaking to you tonight to request your help in protecting the landowners who have started this process and want to start the process for that matter, and would like to see it to completion. So far, we have complied with all of the county regulations and requirements to date to complete our short plat requirements. We were required by the county to drill 3 wells as part of the short plat, and then required to test the water, record the documents and agreements surrounding the wells, and show legal ability of the water. All of those things were completed. We have been required to complete wetland delineation, timber cutting permits, get an engineer for the road, contractors, surveyors. To date, we have spent somewhere around $200,000 on all that stuff, not counting the purchase of the land.
30 seconds, please.
At this point, we have done everything the county required us to do. The only thing that we have left to do is put up the street sign, and I just picked that up yesterday. Everything's finished and ready to go. My question to the council tonight is, where do we stand? We bought this property with the intention of someday, short platting and selling the lots. We're going to send 2 daughters to college. We want a retirement. We've done everything the county has asked us to. Our rights to this short plat has been taken away. If it's going to be taken away, are you going to purchase our development rights? Thanks for listening. I just want to say this kind of smacks of a government takings. Also, of eminent domain.
Hi, my name is Bob Stull. I'm a lifelong resident of Whatcom County. 43 years I've been a private property rights advocate and a local realtor. I've sold hundreds and hundreds of pieces of property all over the county during that time. I've seen a lot of short plats. I've seen a lot of people move to the county. Believe it or not everybody wants to live in Bellingham in a high-rise like they're kind of being forced to do, pretty much, those that can afford it. But tonight I just want to talk about a good friend of mine, a hard-working guy with a family, and he bought a piece of property years ago out off the Noon Road, 20-acre piece, and he went through all the hoops, spent all the money, went through all the grief and the heartache to get it short platted so he could build his dream home. He put in the road and put in 2 wells, and he did finally build his house. That short plat was approved December 24th of 1980. Now, 36 years later, he wants to retire. So he'd like to sell those other parcels. The well's been in all that time with the Department of Ecology permits and, all the T's crossed, all the I's dotted. And, he can do nothing with it. And as you've heard tonight, he is by far not the only one. I mean, there's dozens and dozens of people in that same position. And it wasn't bad enough in 08 and 09 when they lost all their money in the stock market or whatever other monies they had saved. Now they're losing it through their property that they thought was going to be their retirement. This is really unfair. It does smack of a takings. So I don't know what the compensation will be. Certainly there's going to be lost tax revenue at the very least for the county. But I hope you will just do whatever you can to fix this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is David Ream. I'm from Bellingham, Washington. Last name is spelled R-E-H-M. First off, I just want to thank you for the time. I have 2 comments I'd like to make regarding the well issues that brought such a turnout today. The first is just on the environmental impact, and the second is a plea for assistance. Regarding the environmental impact, I'd just like to echo what another citizen previously stated. The wells bring water up from the ground. Pretty much all that water goes right back into the system on the top, on the surface, and it goes back to the environment, helping out all the critters that we like to see come around. So there's the environmental impact of it's not something that's terrible. The second thing I want to talk about is the plea for your assistance, and it's for friends and family who can't be here. I'll give you a quick backstory. 2 years ago, my wife was incredibly sick, and I had a hard time bringing home an income, taking care of my sick wife, and raising a 2-year-old son. There was family friends of mine who came and helped out, and they were able to take a lot of pressure off by helping take care of my wife and take care of my 2-year-old kid when a time we had a hard time doing it. And now I just find myself in a position where I can help them, and that's why I'm here. Today, the husband that helped us out is sick, and he is in a very sick condition. He's probably not going to make it. And the wife is helping him out and trying to take care of their medical needs. They also own acreage with a well, and they also have severe medical bills. Like I said, I'm here to return the favor for them. They need to sell their land to pay for the medical bills to get the assistance that they need to help keep him alive. So today I'm here to ask, will you make that possible for them? Or will they be taxed on a property that has no value, ironically turning their retirement nest egg into a tax liability that further reduces their ability to pay for the medical needs that they need? Thank you.
Hi there, I'm David King. I'm principal of King Architecture. It's always an honor to be in front of you, and I appreciate being involved in this process. I've been working as a designer in Whatcom County for 30 years. I've got a lot of experience helping clients through the permitting process. We did the design work on the county permit center as well as the city of Bellingham permit center, so we're pretty familiar with the efforts that the counties and the cities go through to get folks to this point. We've always appreciated the energy and effort of the county staff in particular. So I want to start there, but I have one more story to tell. We've heard a lot of compelling stories. I have another client now who is putting together a 40,000 square foot facility. We've been working with them for probably a year and a half. They have to date spent about $2 million. The facility would run shifts of 12 employees. The need for that facility amounts to 8 plumbing fixtures. And for that facility to get permitted, they need access to water for those 8 plumbing fixtures. We actually called to get an appointment to submit for a building permit on October 4th. The moratorium occurred on October 27th, I believe. And the appointment that we got from our October 4th request was October 31st. I believe there was a weekend between the moratorium and our appointment to be able to submit for building permit. A lot of compelling stories here, and really I just sort of want to focus on one little possible consideration for a provision in the ordinance, and that is some consideration for vesting. I know that with all the compelling stories we've heard, vesting would be a difficult line to draw within all of these stories, but I would like to at least have some consideration that a project that's basically already got a land disturbance permit, is already putting infrastructure in the ground. We've been talking to the county about the project for over a year. We had an appointment for a
30
permit,
seconds, please.
and perhaps there is the possibility of considering a vesting provision within the ordinance. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Howdy, my name is Bud Breakey. It's spelled Breakey. You guys might remember me from last time. I was the only fellow with my wife that stuck around to the end of the meeting. Nobody else even bothered sticking around after they said their piece, and unfortunately they missed a lot of things that were said with you guys in discussion. 2 of you actually came down, shook hands with me, and talked a little bit in person about some of the scenarios going on with water well issues and so on. One person mentioned, and I wrote it down and I didn't bring it with me, silly. The quote was something darn close to, "It's not a water issue, it's a sprawl issue," which is a takings. If you're doing this because you're trying to control people's private property, you're taking away their private property. You're taking my private property, which is kind of absurd. I was also recommended by one of the members of the council to do as much work as I could to file for a building permit as soon as possible, as soon as the moratorium was lifted, which at the time he told me was 60 days. I've done that. I've since got a septic designed. My well was, like I said before, built in, drilled in August, which my wife and I completely unknowingly were doing this, spending money we didn't have. It's frustrating. Obviously, there's more than 50 people affected. There's more than 100 people affected. And I'm going to do my darndest to make sure that everybody in the county knows that they will be affected, because it's really frustrating. And I don't want people to have this happen without them knowing. It's sad. And, you know, heck, I don't know what's going on with most of the budget meetings that are going on here, because I work 50 hours a week and sometimes 70 hours a week. It just bounces all over the place. I'm too busy to deal with everything that goes on here. And that's why we elect you guys to represent us and hopefully do right by us. And I just can't see this being right. It's really hurtful to most young families. And Bellingham property taxes are going to go through the roof because Whatcom County won't be worth a cent. But Barbara, thank you very much for your service. You've been great, and the only member, actually, of the whole council to respond to anything or follow up on phone calls with me. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Rolf Haugen, R-O-L-F, Haugen, H-A-U-G-E-N. Live in Linden, Washington, and I think it's time for you guys to fight for us. You keep raising our taxes. We're paying lots of money, and we need to see you working for us. We get, my understanding, we get over 3 feet of rain a year, and it goes into the ground, and that's our reservoir. And that's a lot of water. We don't use near that much. It's kind of interesting. I'm a farmer, and we've been fighting for the right to use the water now for quite a while, and now with this new thing hitting the homeowners, it's kind of kicked over the hornet's nest, and so I'm glad to see a lot more people involved than just us farmers trying to work to keep food coming. It's my understanding that the minimum flows are all about fish, and if that's the case, I think we need to go back and find out how many fish are we supposed to have in our river. Because I think the problem doesn't have anything to do with water. We're studying, and I'm on one of the WIDs, we're studying the water quality. We're testing it every 2 weeks. We're looking at the volume. We're looking at this hydrological study of continuity and that kind of stuff. We're studying all that kind of stuff. But nobody's studying about how many fish are we supposed to have. I think the problem is that the commercial fishing and the netting in the river is what's keeping our fish counts too low. I don't think it has anything to do with the water quantity or quality, because we're working hard at that. So please look into that.
Hi, Linda Twitchell, Building Industry Association, Whatcom County. I want to thank you for your work. I think you are trying to make this work for people. I hope you continue looking for alternatives, because the ones spelled out in the interim ordinance, quickly as I read it, do look expensive. And for instance, hydrological studies are going to cost you $50,000 to $300,000, and they may not be able to give you definitive proof that one molecule will never reach, or not reach a stream. But what do? Not do this study? I mean, we're kind of stuck in a hard situation. So I would like to address a slightly different job facing us. And that is what we're really arguing about in terms of the Hearst decision is the legalities of water law. And I think the most immediate thing we can try and do is a legislative fix. I mentioned this, I'm sure, to all of you earlier. There are some being written, drafted now. They're going to be presented the first week in January to try to reverse the wording, change the wording in the Growth Management Act so that, for instance, ecology's exempt well rule could be continue to be used. What I would like to suggest is many of you are progressives and therefore may have influence with people in the legislature who are going to, some of them have already announced they would try and stop such change from happening. May I ask that on December 6th, in addition to taking a final vote, presumably on this interim ordinance, that you pass a very strongly worded resolution encouraging the legislature to adopt legislation that would revert to the status quo. Use your influence, please, on behalf of all the people in Whatcom County who are facing extreme difficulties because of the possible impact of this case. It's not your fault the case ended up the way it did, but I would encourage you to try and help people out. And to be honest, one of the most effective things I see that you could do is pressure the legislature and make a point of reaching out to the people in your position in other counties that are affected and try and get them to pressure the legislature and, if necessary, the governor so that we can try and get some action so that there is not this problem of people losing the ability to use or sell land that they're dependent on. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Tim Vandermillen, and pretty much everything that everyone here has said tonight as far as frustration, I echo the same thing. I do want to draw some attention to what was said earlier about this is going to be taken case-by-case basis. Our piece of property, which we purchased on the 12th of October, is on Vetter Mountain, the north side of Vetter Mountain, overlooking the Sumas Valley. It has absolutely nothing to do with the Nooksack River. All water drains towards the north. It has nothing to do with the river. And from what I understand with the court ruling, it's affecting exempt wells that are affecting the in-stream flows of the Nooksack River, and our property is not. So I don't believe for 1 second that the case-by-case basis is true. I believe that's a lie. I believe it's regardless of who you are, if you have exempt well, it's going to be an automatic no. And what this is doing is putting me and my wife and everybody else here in a lot of financial pressure, mental pressure, and it's not right. It's just not fair. I've left you, I have copies here of all the information on my property, and I beg you guys to read over it. I'm part of a homeowners association. There's CC&Rs. There's well agreements. There's everything in here. And this piece of property has absolutely nothing to do with the Nooksack River, period. I've had discussions with the Department of Ecology, and they actually agreed with that, even though their map says that my piece of land is in the Nooksack River Basin. But they flat told me that it was true that my land has nothing to do with the Nooksack River because of its location. So I beg you to look at this, along with everything everybody else has said, but if there's any exceptions to the rule, this one right here is this is affecting me and my wife immensely, and thank you.
My name is Maggie Cooper, and I guess I'm just another upset landowner. I have 5 acres that I paid for a well, or let's see, I paid for a septic plan, and I paid for the septic to be put in, and I paid for my home plan, and I paid for my wetlands, and I paid for mitigation. And now I have unusable land, and I can't even sell it because it's unusable. It's unvaluable. I think you're a very tough cookie, Barbara. You're the only one up there. You were the only one that voted against this. And I think there's a lot of people that aren't here tonight that have a lot of the same feelings that us landowners have. We can't build. We can't sell. I've put all this money into it. Are you going to compensate? No. What am I going to get back? Where am I going to put my family? Should we have more homelessness? Wasn't that just a subject that was brought up? Because right now I'm homeless. I moved out of my rental because I'm building, and it was such a sure thing that I was going to build until this exempt well thing has happened. And now I'm homeless. And if this well passes, you were saying technically that, let's see. So if I submit my plans to get my permitting for my well, that it's going to cost a ton of money, and the timeline of the review is infinite. So basically you're just telling me that absolutely no more wells, but not technically. It's just a ton of money and an infinite amount of time for review. And I think that's very unfair to every person. And I think not just landowners should care about this, but everybody that drinks water, everybody that owns a home, whether you want to add on to your home. It's a very big issue, and it's not advertised enough. This is secretive, and this, I found out on a spur of the moment a few hours ago, and this is
30
something
seconds,
that I
please.
follow. I didn't find out till an hour before this happened. Thanks.
Mike Kent, Whatcom County. My understanding is the Supreme Court ruling differed from what your choices and what your wishes were. I commend you for that. But now that we find ourselves where we are, now that we have a gentleman here that he doesn't get a do-over to create a compound for his family. He doesn't have time. He doesn't have years in his lifespan to redo what's best for his kids. We have young people that may spend the next 15, 20 years recouping the monies that they saved and strive for just to get the American dream. I ran for county council a few years ago, Carl. We had a spirited race. The best tool you used, quite successfully, was that I was a realtor. I've never been prouder of realtors than I was tonight. We do have an emergency. 2 examples. Talked to a number of professional appraisers. These folks' land, the examples we had tonight, the companies will not even appraise the property because they have no way of valuing that property. I had a good discussion with Keith Wilnow a week ago. He said absolutely the property values will be impacted, and absolutely the assessments will drop, and absolutely the balance of the property owners will pick up the slack. No different than BP Cherry Point Refinery's attorneys arguing that their land's been devalued because of the threat to fossil fuels, to the point a $1 billion property has been reassessed 18% cheaper. We get to pick up that bill. It is an emergency, and I would behoove or encourage, as has been the case earlier, to do everything within your power, in your unique leadership positions, to get this resolved as quickly as possible. And if there's a path faster than the legislation and the work of people like Doug Erickson, then do it. If not, I would seriously hope that you would support the legislature to get this turned around quickly, because there is an emergency. And that's the people that spoke before you. Thank you.
Cliff Langley, Whatcom County. I had originally wanted to come and just read Abraham Lincoln's proclamation for Thanksgiving, but I've changed that. But I would like to just say that in that proclamation, he said, "I invite you, therefore, my fellow citizens in every part of the United States, to set apart and observe the last Thursday of November next as a day of thanksgiving and praise to our beneficent Father who dwells in the heaven." I was going to read the entire thing, but I did some calculations the other day, listening to these people. Eric Hirsch says that Whatcom County uses 90 million gallons of water a day. That seems like that's a lot of water. If you figure that out in the course of a year, it's about 32 billion gallons of water. That's a lot of water. So then I figured out, just taking part of the county, roughly from the coast to Glacier and from the southern border to the northern border, there's about 864 square miles there, roughly. And so then I was wondering, so when it rains, how much water falls in a square acre or a square mile? It's 17 million gallons. So if you multiplied, that out, 17 million gallons per acre, and you figured in that, just in that western portion of the county, that comes to, in a course of a year, 572 billion gallons of water. We're using 300 billion gallons of water, which we think is a lot. But we got 540 billion gallons of water left over. I know that, the trees and everything need it. But my question is, where is the emergency when you've got that much water in Whatcom County? Now, there may be somewhere else that doesn't get that, but we get 39 inches of rain a year. So that's where I come up with the 572 billion. When you multiply out the 39 inches of rain times 17 million per inch, comes to that. So my question is, and listening to all these people, where's the emergency? Why do we need to do something of that magnitude that's going to affect that many lives?
30 seconds, please.
And the economics of Whatcom County. Just a question. You need to spend more time finding out what is the truth rather than what is someone says is an emergency.
Jenny Walters, Bellingham. I don't know if you're for or against me, but I know that you do have the power to create laws and control the outcome of my property. We have 18 acres that's split up into 3 parcels, and the reason that we did this is because, well, first of all, we missed the gift exemption, so we had to do a short plat. But what I would ask is that in your writing that you create for the future, that you would put some information in there that gives a written provision to protect the short plat owners who rely on private exempt wells, especially wells that have been installed and pre-approved for a building permit and short plat requirements, but yet not attached to a home or auxiliary dwelling unit. Also, I would like to ask if you could possibly put in some information in there about deadlines, because I know that you want, well, I've heard that some people want to go back 5 years, but short plats that are done for a family versus for resale take a lot longer. Like one gentleman said he had 30 acres and he was doing something for his his future generations, for his children. And I also did this for our family, for our future generations, for my children. And so obviously they're not ready to build yet, and so I would like you to put in some information about protection for a time frame so that they will be able to build. Also, I want to mention the conservation easement. On our property, we had to have a conservation easement, which basically has taken 3/4 of our property, which took away most of it, and we have a lot of wetlands and that. But if that's being taken away from me, is somebody going to give that back to me or reverse that decision on those properties? So those are just some of the things that I would like you guys to think about when you're writing this up. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Cal Leenstra, Bellingham, native of Whatcom County. I want to refer you to paragraph 5, and some other people have already talked about it. It's on page 8 of the proposed ordinance, where it states that the following will be required, quote, "A study prepared by a qualified hydrogeologist licensed in the state of Washington demonstrating the proposed groundwater withdrawal would not impair a senior water right, including in-stream flows," and it goes on after that, but you've heard it before. And I just want to add that and we've heard it, it's going to be extremely difficult. I think Bill Clark had estimated more than $100,000 if it could be done at all. Skagit County has been trying to do it for 10 years, and I don't think anybody's proved anything over there yet. So, and if the results are negative, then there'll be a serious reduction in the value of the land, which I think several people have alluded to earlier. So taxes that were previously paid by rural property owners will now have to be paid by urban dwellers, with probable devastating effects on the rural taxing districts. There's likely to be a very long line of rural property owners at the Board of Appeals seeking a large adjustment in their assessed values. And is this really necessary, or does it really accomplish anything? I think we have to remember that all the wells in Whatcom County consume 0.7% of the water. And Bellingham pukes about 4 million gallons of water in the bay a day. So we're not talking about a lot of water here on domestic wells. But according to the Washington State Groundwater Association, they assert that, quote, "When all hydrological changes inherent to the building of a house on a rural property are considered, the net effect is generally an enhancement of recharge and therefore of base flow to streams," quote, unquote. They go on to state, quote, "Without an impairment to the streams, there is no obligation for the county to deny building permits on the basis of non-availability of water," unquote. The association further asserts that the typical rural home withdraws about 150 gallons per day, and 90% of that is returned to the groundwater system via the drain field. That means that the net consumption use of water is about
30 seconds,
15
please.
gallons per day. Compare that to a single mature Douglas fir tree that draws about 250 gallons a day during the 4-month growing season, totaling 30,000 gallons per season, or about 82 gallons per day. So if you clear one tree off your building site, you're 67 gallons ahead of the program. So the best way, the Water Association concludes, the best way for the county to demonstrate responsibility of stream protection is to encourage rural building. The Hearst decision as
Time.
it stands is going to be very tough on rural property owners, particularly those who may be nearing retirement, who are depending on the sale of a portion of their land for retirement income. That's why we need to support Doug Erickson in his effort to write and pass legislation that will override this ill-advised and devastating court decision. Thanks for listening.
Therese Martin, Whatcom County. I find that myself, I'm very, very lucky because I was in the process of purchasing a piece of property in the county and selling my home in Skagit County and wanting to come to Whatcom County. But with the well moratorium, I'm going to have to walk away because my lender contacted me today and let me know with the well moratorium I would not receive my financing for my construction loan. So I started contacting other financial institutions, and I was actually told by Washington Federal today that if there is a well on the property, they will not loan. So the financial institutions are getting involved as well. I talked to a loan agent at Washington Federal. So far, only the credit unions are even willing to look into my issue. I was with Banner Bank, and Banner Bank told me that they would not loan. And even if I went ahead and went with the water where you catch it off the roofs, it's not something they will loan with because they have nothing to compare it to. So I would like you guys to consider the financial an economic change for this, because I'm 32 years old, and this is the third home I've bought. And I plan to live the American dream and continue to buy homes and I have 2 young children. So currently I'm supposed to close on the home that I'm selling on January 13th, and we currently have no place to go because we are not able to get our financing on the property we plan on buying in Whatcom County. Which I find myself extremely lucky for that, because I at least am not financially burdened by the property that I would have already purchased. So I'm so sorry to the families that have had to go through what they're going through, because I can't imagine. Where I'm at is hard enough to think that my property is going to sell and I have 2 young children, that I have to tell them, no, we can't live the dream yet, but I'm not going to give up. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate it.
Would anyone else like to speak?
Hi, I'm Rob Vanderveen, county resident. So I'm in the same boat, kind of property. Can't get a building permit, even though I spent thousands already. Well's been there for a long time. So, I see so much problems going around the world in the country. Reading about police officers getting shot, and what a terrible thing. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I want to abide by the law. I do abide by the law. I'm determined to do that. But I also feel I need to fight for my liberty. Liberty is the foundation of this country. I sincerely fear that we are going to, perhaps eco-terrorists, we might call them, might sprout up. This is having such a horrible effect on people like myself that people less committed to the law might do something to fight back. So I think I'm just stating that to try to express my urgency to resolve this situation for the sake of the general public, And also at that point it's such a shame that this small group of rural landowners is faced with this devastating problem, devastating to them, for the benefit of the general public, society at large. That burden should be spread around. Those people should be compensated. I hope this can be resolved in a reasonable way so that people like me aren't so blindsided by it, I guess. Thank you.
Name's Fred Blake. I'm a Whatcom County resident, been here for all my life. I lived right on the river. And this whole thing is a bogus setup. And I want to say one or two things here. We have a vote coming up, and we better vote, and we better be looking at everybody that's sitting up here that we need to pull the plug. That's all I got to say.
Would anyone else like to speak during the open session?
Hello, my name is Alexandra Meeks. I'm the wife of Alan Meeks, who had already explained our situation to you. I wasn't going to speak, but I have a few things to add. First of all, thank you to the homeless gentleman who brought to my attention the urgency in the homeless, affordable housing. Our family will be homeless because of this decision. My husband didn't get to mention in the letter that we, besides investing all of our money into our land that we can now unable to build on, we're losing our current housing. We're going to be unable to find new housing because I lost my job recently taking care of a disabled family member. So we're looking at being unable to find new housing. We're looking at possibly applying for welfare. This is, by the way, how first-generation welfare clients are born. And thirdly, something needs to be fixed, either address the housing in the county or this moratorium, or preferably both. As you can hear from my accent, I'm an immigrant. I know this country is not big on immigrants now, but many of us are very hardworking. I've never been on welfare once. I immigrated to this beautiful, amazing country from a horrible social country where my voice was never heard. And I'm very excited to be here, and I'm very excited for the fact that I can at least face you. But I don't understand what kind of democracy it is when I haven't heard anybody say yes for the moratorium. All I hear is no. And so if the outcome will be yes on the moratorium, this is not democracy. This is either something new or this is corruption. So please hear our voices. I'm not hearing anybody say. And I've worked very hard in this country, and all of my money went to meet my American dream, and it's not being met. So if I go back to my country, I can't meet it there too. So somebody needs to help me. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? Okay, seeing no one else, we will close the public session, and Mr. Lyles would like to have a word.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and council members, and I'd like to just spend a minute, if I may, to address members of the community related to this. I don't think that there's any of us that are going to argue that there's not enough water in Whatcom County. I mean, it's relatively evident in the world that we live in that we have that. We have a couple major players that have huge water rights, and we have been reliant upon what God's given us over the years and through state law using the exempt wells. Unfortunately for Whatcom County and for 29 other GM growth management counties in the state, the Supreme Court rendered a decision that I think most all of us are still wondering how in the world they came to the conclusion that they did. Regardless of that is we're in a legal battle as it relates to our ability, I'm going to say as citizens of Whatcom County and the citizens of the state of Washington, to use the water that we have throughout our existence used. Ultimately, the 29 growth management counties need legislative relief to solve this problem. We're a county. We're a sub-agency of the state of Washington. We can't make laws that go against what the state has determined appropriate for us. Now we have three specific laws right now that are the most challenging for us. First, the Hearst decision that was just rendered. That's a GMA law, and that's what Senator Erickson is proposing to change that would get it back to the point that the state would be back in the water business, is where I personally believe, and I think that the majority, possibly all of the council, I think all of the council, I'll speak for them here, want that to be. The Association of Washington Counties want the state to be in that position. So ultimately, we need to have a state solution to this problem. We're bound to abide by the law, and right now we have two conflicting ones. So we have the Hearst decision, and ultimately what the Supreme Court has done is says, now we need to also co-manage water on behalf of the citizens. But we have two Supreme Court cases that have been passed that relate to water in the last few years that make it extremely complicated for us. One is the Postema decision, which refers to the one molecule of water transfer that would impair a senior water right or in-stream flow. Extremely difficult, and as mentioned earlier, Skagit County has been struggling with this because they're under court orders for that and have been for years. The second is the Foster case that has to do with water banking and water mitigation. Again, it jumbles the situation up to the point that it's just about impossible for a county to find resolution within that. So along with Clallam, Spokane, Skagit, Kittitas, Okanagan, Pierce, and I'm sure quite a few numbers of others over the next few months, we're all going to be experiencing what now is becoming these water moratoriums to try to figure out a way to solve the problem under the law that we're bound to uphold. Do I like it? No. Does the council like it? I don't believe they do either. But we're in a situation where we need to do what we can. So in the interim, along with the Whatcom County Council, but the executive branch, we've put together a staff task force. We do have the comprehensive water supply plan completed. Gives us a really good indication of where all of our water associations are at, how many hookups that they have. I believe in the long term we're going to do everything that we can to support our water systems, support our PUD, and support the city of Bellingham, who's got the water to expand those systems out as far as we possibly can. We're going to implement the out-of-stream water user plan, which is also going to identify in terms of in-stream flow and impacts to and impairments that we need to get that taken care of. We're studying the mitigation options that may or may not be working throughout the state. Each county is doing this a little bit differently, and we're taking the time to read each one of these ordinances throughout the state to see what will work for our citizens. And we're going to continue to do that. The other thing is the vesting situation. It's extremely complicated. State law vests long plats for 5 years from when they're done, from when they're approved. Unfortunately, state law doesn't deal with short plats in the same way. So there's some challenges that we need to make happen. What the big challenge for Whatcom County is that we're the county right now that's before the Growth Management Hearings Board with this particular case. And if we do something wrong, and we get a order of invalidity with the Growth Management Hearings Board related to these issues, then they take control of it. And I don't think that there's any of us that believe it's in the best interest of our citizens to put these decisions we're struggling with in the hands of the Growth Management Hearing Board. Now, this is my own personal take on it is we've got 29 counties struggling with this. There's going to be 29 counties that are probably going to be facing lawsuits pertaining to the decisions that they make. We're going to find out which ones are going to stick and which ones aren't going to stick. It's going to take us time to be able to solve this as we move forward. We do need to solve it. Ultimately, we need the state to come to on our behalf in the other 29 counties. We have about 18 to 19,000 developable lots in rural Whatcom County. About 8,000 of those probably are going to rely upon the exempt well, and at this particular time, I'm going to be honest with you folks, I don't see resolution under current state law that we're going to be able to get everybody exactly what they want in the short term. That's our goal. But we're going to have to be patient. So when I became mayor of Linden in 2002, the city was under a self-imposed subdivision moratorium related to expansion of development because of a water right challenge that we had with the Department of Ecology. It took about 2.5 years to work through that to come to a resolution where we could get beyond that and move forward. This is an extremely difficult, challenging situation, and the stories that you're telling are absolutely heartbreaking. I've been to the state legislature twice. plan on continuing to go down there. I have the support of these men and women up here that are because I believe we need to do what's right. But I'm kind of not saying this in the right tone because I'm as frustrated as you are. It hurts me in the situation that we're in. But I just wanted to spend a minute with you this evening to let you know is that I'm taking this seriously. Our staff members over here are taking this very seriously. Our council's taking it seriously. We're going to do what we can. I supported the emergency moratorium. I'm going to be supporting this next moratorium because I am bound to follow the laws of the state of Washington, and I cannot find a way to make that happen. Now, if you're elected into the position, Mr. Reimer, I think is who might be making it back there, do I like it? No. But we're bound right now by the state in terms of what we're doing, and we're going to do everything we can to open this thing up. And I give you my commitment that that's going to happen. But I'm not going to purposely break what the law is at this particular time to do it. And I would hope that that people wouldn't expect that's what you would expect me to do on it. But we're going to try. And I'm heartbroken. I truly am. And we're going to, I'm going to continue to do everything I can. So thank you for being here. I've just give you my comments.
What alternatives to moratoriums did you look at?
We've looked at Spokane. We've looked at Pierce. We've read Kittitas. We got Clallam. Alternatives to moratoriums. And what would that be?
That's what I'm asking you. Did you look at anything else? Were there other options, or is that the only way you can follow the law?
The only option that we have is to limit the development of the houses within the law, which says that we are to take a look on the exempt well status, to take a look at the impairment of the senior water rights, and to take a look at the in-stream flow end of it. So, you know, if we want to have a community discussion one of these days that we can get into it to more detail, I'd be more than happy to work on to talk with you about it. I wanted to stand up here tonight and let you know of what's going on. I understand your frustration, and I'm going to continue to do what I can. So thank you.
Ms. Brenner.
I do think everybody on the council and the executive don't like this, but I don't agree with them, and I didn't support the moratorium. And instead of ranting like I usually do, I would appreciate it if people who are interested and want to talk to me about it, I'm in the phone book, call me. You can find my email address online. I would really like to talk to a lot of people who have come here tonight. I do have my own ideas, and
Okay, so let's move on with our, yes, Mr. Brown.
I'm sorry, I feel the need to say something, a couple of things. First of all, I just want to thank Mr. Lowes for standing up and really just having the guts, frankly, to tell the truth of what the situation is. We fought this issue for 3 years. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars fighting this issue for 3 years. I don't want you people to go away thinking that somehow this was our idea, somehow we just rolled over. We fought this issue, and the staff and the council is working extremely hard trying to navigate it. If anybody wants to call me, I'm also in the book, and so is everybody else on the council. And we are devastated by the impact and the stories that we are hearing from people. We do not think this is fair either. And I just want you to understand that we are working as hard as we can, but we are a political subdivision of the state of Washington. We do have to follow the Supreme Court ruling, and if we don't, Jack is right. The Growth Management Hearings Board will come in and they will be dictating the rules, and they will take away from us, your elected representatives, the ability to find a solution. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Let's just take a
We're going to take a couple of minutes break.
just a quick pause.
It does, because I tried calling before I got your number. Your number doesn't work. Yeah, but that, people don't know, what is your office, like, they look you up at your name. Well, yeah, that's not you, your name.
I'll give Jack credit.
I do.
He did the right thing.
council members back up on the dais, please? Okay, we will call the meeting back to order. And we are now at the consent agenda from Finance and Administrative Services Committee.
Mr. Chair, the Whatcom County Finance and Administrative Services Committee met today and we considered items 1 through 6 on the consent agenda. These all received unanimous approval and I so move.
Okay, we have a motion.
So moved.
We already have one.
Oh, okay, sorry.
But that's okay.
Second that.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, the next item was an ordinance establishing the Sudden Valley Stormwater Improvements Fund and establishing a project-based budget for the Sudden Valley Stormwater Improvements Project. This received a vote of unanimous approval, and I so move.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Ms. Brenner, discussion.
I just have a question. These are like boom, 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 closing down funds. Why couldn't these have been done as consent agenda too? What kept that from happening? It's all your fault.
Ordinance cannot be on the consent agenda.
What?
Ordinances cannot be
right.
placed on a consent agenda.
Right, gotcha. Okay.
Any other discussion?
Does it have to be an ordinance? To get rid of an
Seeing
ordinance?
none, please call the roll.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ken Mann.
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
Carl Weimer,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Red Brown.
Yes.
That passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, the next item was an ordinance establishing the Hovander Park Building Improvements Fund and establishing a project-based budget for the Hovander Park Building Improvements Project. This received unanimous approval, and I so move.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none,
say
please
it
call the
faster.
roll.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ken Mann.
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
Carl Weimer,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Red Brown.
Yes.
Barry Buchanan.
Yes,
Sorry.
that passes unanimously.
Next item was an ordinance establishing the Lake Whatcom Trail Development Fund and establishing a project-based budget for the Lake Whatcom Park Trail Development Project. This received unanimous approval, and I so move.
Okay, discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Ken Mann,
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
Carl Weimer,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner.
Yes.
Red Brown.
Yes.
Barry Buchanan.
Yes.
Todd Donovan.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the next item was an ordinance amending Ordinance 2014-080, establishment of the Academy Road Stormwater Improvements Fund and the Academy Road Stormwater Improvements Project-based budget to request additional appropriation authority in the amount of $98,000. This received unanimous approval, and I so move.
Okay, we have that motion before us. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
Carl Weimer.
Yes.
Barbara Brenner.
Yes.
Red Brown.
Yes.
Barry Buchanan.
Yes.
Todd Donovan.
Yes.
Ken Mann.
Yes.
That passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, the next item was an ordinance amending Ordinance 2014-081, establishment of the Agate Heights Estate Bay Lane Stormwater Improvements Fund and the Agate Heights Estate Bay Lane Stormwater Improvements Project-based budget to request additional appropriation authority in the amount of $170,000. This received unanimous approval, and I so move.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Carl Weimer.
Yes.
Barbara Brenner.
Yes.
Red Brown.
Yes.
Barry Buchanan.
Yes.
Todd Donovan.
Yes.
Ken Mann.
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu.
Yes.
That passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, the next item was ordinance amending Ordinance 2014-083, establishment of the Cedar Hills/Euclid Stormwater Improvements Fund and Cedar Hills/Euclid Stormwater Improvements Project-based budget to request additional appropriation authority in the amount of $200,000. This received unanimous approval, and I so move.
Okay, thank you. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Barbara
Yes.
Brenner. Red Brown.
Yes.
Barry Buchanan.
Yes.
Todd Donovan.
Yes.
Ken Mann.
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu.
Yes.
Carl Weimer.
Yes.
That passes 7-0.
Mr. Chair, the next item was an ordinance amending the 2016 Whatcom County Budget 17th request in the amount of $2,336,646. This received unanimous approval, and I so move.
Okay, discussion on that motion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Red Brown.
Yes.
Barry Buchanan.
Yes.
Todd Donovan.
Yes.
Ken Mann.
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu.
Yes.
Carl Weimer.
Yes.
Barbara Brenner.
Yes.
That passes 7-0.
Mr. Chair, the next item was an ordinance closing the Rural Road Safety Program Fund 343. This received unanimous approval, and I so move.
Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Barry Buchanan.
Yes.
Todd Donovan.
Yes.
Ken Mann.
Yeah.
Satpal Sidhu.
Yes.
Carl Weimer.
Yes.
Barbara Brenner.
Yes.
Red Brown.
Yes.
That passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, the next item was an ordinance closing the Lake Whatcom Boulevard Resurfacing Fund 352. This received unanimous approval, and I so move.
Discussion? Please call the roll.
Todd Donovan.
Yes.
Ken Mann.
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu.
Yes.
Carl Weimer.
Yes.
Barbara Brenner.
Yes.
Red Brown.
Yes.
Barry Buchanan.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the next item.
Passes 7-0. Sorry.
My apologies. Next item is ordinance closing the Slater Road / Nooksack River Bridge Fund 354. This received unanimous approval, and I so move.
Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Ken Mann.
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu.
Yes.
Carl Weimer.
Yes.
Barbara Brenner.
Yes.
Red Brown.
Yes.
Barry Buchanan.
Yes.
Todd Donovan.
Yes.
That passes 7-0.
Mr. Chair, the next item is an ordinance closing the Hannigan Road Structural Overlay Project Fund 356. This received unanimous approval, and I so move.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Satpal Sidhu.
Yes.
Carl Weimer.
Yes.
Barbara Brenner. Red Brown.
Yes.
Barry Buchanan.
Yes.
Todd Donovan.
Yes.
Ken Mann.
Yes.
That passes 7-0.
Mr. Chair, the next item is an ordinance closing the Beaver Creek Stormwater Improvements Fund 366. This received unanimous approval, and I so move.
Discussion? Please call the roll.
Carl Weimer.
Yes.
Barbara Brenner.
Yes.
Red Brown.
No, why is Carl pausing? Yeah, yes, okay.
Come on, come on, come on, come on.
Barry Buchanan.
Yes.
Todd Donovan.
Yes.
Ken Mann.
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, now you've broken my
That passes
flow.
7-0.
All right, next item is request authorization for the county executive to enter into a contract between Whatcom County Flood Control Zone District and Colshan Services LLC for the development and implementation of a stakeholder improvement plan and facilitation of stakeholder meetings to support the update of the Lower Nooksack River Comprehensive Flood Management Plan in the amount of $60,000. Council acting as the Whatcom County Flood Control Zone District Board of Supervisors. This received unanimous approval, and I so move.
Okay, we have a motion in front of us. Any discussion?
Well, actually,
Yes.
I do have one question. Is this the south, the Acme South Lake Whatcom area? It's not, okay, forget it.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, the next item is request authorization for the county executive to enter into the contract amendment between Whatcom County Flood Control Zone District and Washington State Department of Health for the Pollution Identification and Correction Program to extend the period of the grant agreement and increase the budget in the amount of $155,000. Again, the council is acting as the Whatcom County Flood Control Zone District Board of Supervisors. This received a vote of 2 with 1 abstention, and I so move.
Okay, we have that motion in front of us. We're working off the pink substitute version. Any discussion? Ms. Brenner?
I totally support the PIC program, but I don't support using flood control monies for it, so I'm not going to support the motion.
Other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain. Sorry.
Opposed?
Me, aye.
Me?
Well, what did, somebody said something.
He abstained.
Oh,
That passes 5-1 to 1 abstention.
why'd you abstain?
As I've said before, I do business with the
Oh,
Conservation
okay.
District, so I think it's appropriate for me to abstain. The next item is request authorization for the county executive to enter into a contract between Whatcom County Flood Control Zone District and Geneva Consulting Services for coordination of the Whatcom County Local Integrating Organisation in the amount of $67,302. Council acting as the Whatcom County Flood Control Zone District Board of Supervisors. This received unanimous approval, and I so move.
Okay, that motion's in front of us. Discussion? Ms. Brenner?
Well, I didn't support creating this organization. It does not represent all the different water interests in the county, and I'm not going to support putting money into it.
Other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
That passes 6-1. Councilmember Brenner opposed.
Mr. Chair, there was nothing further from finance.
Next item is a resolution requesting that the county executive prepare alternative financing options for selected water resource services. I would entertain a motion.
I'd move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Ms. Brenner.
Why do you have to have us do a resolution for you to do this? Seems like it's a great idea, but why does it have to come from us? Who made that decision? You're going to let John take it, huh?
I'll take it. There's been enough heat for everybody to go around, so it's my turn. You know, over the course of the last 8 years or so, there have been recurring conversations about how to most fairly allocate the cost of growing water resource needs around the county. And most recently, one budget cycle ago, this council approved a higher level of service around the pollution identification control program. Of course, at the behest of the state pressing those needs. But the long and the short of it is between that, the state NPDS stormwater permit, and a couple of other water resource service increases, we recognize the increased burden on the flood fund and other water resource service funds, and we got to do something about that before it's too late. So I think this came out of the council discussion leading up to this budget cycle to put a stake in the ground out in 2017, 2018, so that we can move towards a look at those alternatives and put some decision before the council.
Yeah, it still doesn't answer my question, though. Why do you need us to, I mean, you guys are the experts anyway, and I agree. I think it's a good idea, but I'm just wondering why it's coming from us.
Because the council was looking to direct the administration towards the doing of that. We could certainly volunteer to do that if you'd like, but if you want to tie our hands and make us do it, we're happy
That'd
to
be
be.
interesting.
Yeah.
We don't direct the executive. We request.
Yes, you request. That's right. That's right. So you're putting a formal request forward. That's the long and short of it.
I'm just curious.
Right.
Excuse me, John.
Yeah, that's okay. Have it done.
Any other discussion? Questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Next, we have introduction items. We have 9 items for introduction. I would entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Can you read the
We have a
colors?
motion
in-
and a second to introduce these 9 items.
Including an amended one.
Can you read the colored copies?
Yeah, item
into
number
the-
6 is substitute pages it's in yellow. Item 7, we have additional information that is in a dark blue sheet and a substitute version that's green.
By the way, this is in yellow too, and it's not,
We ran out of colors, I think. We had so much stuff.
oh, you doubled it, okay.
don't know.
I think so.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes 7-0. We are now on to other committee reports. Mr. Weimer, I think you had planning today?
Yeah, we did have a meeting in planning for one item. We had a discussion regarding a proposed ordinance adopting the current state building code and repealing the existing Title 15. And we had a good discussion about that, and a couple of members still have more questions that they want answered, so we'll be taking that up again in January.
Okay. Any other committee-related information? Okay, what about other business?
Planning, we had a planning meeting, what was that about?
That was what he just discussed.
I thought it was, I thought you said natural resources, right, it was planning.
Other business items. Go down the line. None. Mr. Brown?
I have an update, but I'll wait.
I would like us to reconsider how we do our votes and what we use, Sturgis or Roberts, and I'll be bringing that forward. I'm getting really tired of this second that nobody remembers and everybody goes, and also being shut down because somebody won't give me a second.
On that motion, I'd given you one. I should have given you another one.
That's right.
Okay, any other business items?
I just want to reflect briefly on today's meeting. I think I'm one of the rookies. There's another guy with me. It was very, very tough meeting. And I see a real resentment from the people who are affected, and rightly so. You know, it's affecting people's personal lives, and there is a financial burden or financial hit is very, very serious hit on any family, and affects the families in many, many ways. And people came and expressed, I really don't resent that they came, and some were totally angry, some were not so angry, but their feelings were the same. One of the things I want to say that I think there is a communication gap or information gap. What we are exposed to or we are privy to, having more discussions, or people who attend the meetings very regularly or more involved, they actually have a better understanding. It's not about right or wrong, it's about having a better understanding of the issue on hand. And somehow it's not been communicated to people who are affected by this. People are reacting. It's like, you know, there's a parable that 4 blinds go and touch an elephant, and somebody touched the ears and says the elephant is like a big fan. Somebody touched the legs and says the elephant is like pillars. You know, that's the part of their description. But they don't see the whole elephant. And that is partially on us as well. Us means staff, council, administration, or website or whatever. And this is not, I'm not finding faults, it's just in such a short time and fast moving things, it's not clear to people. People think that maybe council enjoyed or the administration enjoyed having a moratorium. You know, like they're getting back at us or something. At least some of the feelings were like that this was our first preference or our choice preference to do that. Whereas the staff, everybody needed a little bit time. It's like a timeout to think what we do. If we mislead somebody and issue a permit, and 6 months later you go to the same person and say, oh, by the way, we issued you a permit by mistake. But I'm not really going to thrash it out anymore, but I really deeply feel the pain people have been put through on this. And we should have maybe another public meeting where people are more allowed to come and discuss and learn and teach us, because when we have this kind of environment, it's very different to share the information or have a discussion. It could be just a very non-official platform to do that. It's a problem which doesn't have an easy solution. Even people say, don't do anything. That's not an option either, don't do anything. It could make it worse. Then who's responsible? Then they're going to say, well, we elected you. Why didn't you do something? So, and it's very difficult to make that kind of argument in this setting. But it definitely touched me very much that we do have a big communication gap, and people need to understand. And they may still say the council is wrong. I'll take that because I signed up for it. That's not the issue. The issue is when people have a different information or not full information, and they make their opinion based on that. And that's not good. Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to council member updates.
I was just going to say that I may miss the next meeting. I'm supposed to be in Washington, D.C. the week of December 5th, but that's not totally clear yet. But if I'm not here, that's where I'm at.
Okay.
No comments.
I had two updates. One is I attended along with Mr. Sadhu a water forum in Linden organised by the farmers, and it was interesting. Their keynote speaker was, and I can't remember his name or the jurisdiction he came from, but he talked about the long experience. What was it, over a decade? Plymouth. Talked about the long, from Oregon. The long, arduous experience that they'd had, I think it spanned over a decade or more, about dealing with the water issues. And so we're not the only jurisdiction in this problem. Second one thing I wanted to do is to just acknowledge an individual who passed away recently was Chuck Antholt. Dr. Hutchings was kind enough to make some notes because he lives close by to where Chuck was living. And both John and myself attended his service on Sunday, which I'd just like to say was one of the more moving services I think I've ever been to. 200 people maybe more, standing room only. And I just want to acknowledge Chuck because Chuck was an agricultural economist, a Peace Corps volunteer, a World Bank, a member of the World Bank Public Service Economics Facility at Western Washington, an active voice in Whatcom County agriculture. He spent 30 years in the Third World teaching people how to feed themselves. And when he retired, he came here, worked as a volunteer teaching farmers in the community how to be better farmers, volunteered on the Agricultural Advisory Committee, the Lummi Island Ferry Advisory Committee, and was an all-around good neighbour who really spent the remainder of his life trying to help this community, and I just want to acknowledge his passing.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
I would like to thank everybody who came out. Most have gone home, but I think it was Councilmember Sadhu kind of said, we're here to get yelled at. We signed up for this, and it's good to hear people calling us, coming to the meetings, and telling us how this is impacting them. It's important. And I'd like to thank the executive for getting up and trying to explain this whole thing and where we fit in with the state. I really appreciate you doing that for us. So, thanks.
Thank you. Nothing.
Okay, with no other business before the council, we are adjourned.